The hall was buzzing with quiet excitement. People were talking softly, holding glasses of sparkling drinks dressed in elegant clothes that reflected the soft glow of the chandeliers. At the center of the room, a grand piano shone under the warm lights, its polished black surface gleaming as if inviting someone to play. The famous pianist, known around the world for his incredible talent and dramatic performances, stood near it, chatting with a few guests and laughing at something someone had said. He had a playful twinkle in his eyes, a hint that something unexpected might happen soon. In the crowd, a woman stood quietly, holding a glass of water rather than wine or champagne. She was dressed simply, not trying to stand out, and she had a gentle smile on her face. Most of the guests had noticed her as someone quiet and ordinary, blending into the background. She wasn't part of the music world. She had a regular job and lived a simple life. Yet music had always been her quiet companion. Even if she never shared it with the world, her love for the piano had always been strong. The pianist's eyes wandered around the room, and then they landed on her. He noticed her soft humming, almost like a melody she was keeping to herself. He raised an eyebrow and walked over, a playful grin spreading across his face. "Would you like to try the piano?" he asked, not in a commanding way, but with an easy charm that made everyone turn their heads. The room fell silent for a moment, surprised by the unexpected question. The woman looked up, her eyes widening. She had never played in front of anyone outside of family or close friends, and certainly never in front of a crowd of elegant strangers. Her hands trembled slightly as she glanced at the piano, wondering if she could really do it. The pianist encouraged her, his voice warm and gentle. "Just for fun. Don't worry about perfection. Just play what comes from your heart." The guests laughed softly at the idea, thinking it might be a cute, awkward performance. She hesitated, feeling a mix of fear and excitement. She had played piano in private for years, practicing in her small living room, fingers dancing over the keys late at night when no one was watching. She knew she could play, but this was different. Every eye in the room was on her now. The playful atmosphere was charged with anticipation. After a deep breath, she walked to the piano. Her heart pounded loudly, almost drowning out the soft background music that was already playing from a speaker. She sat down on the bench, feeling the cool touch of the keys beneath her fingers. Her first notes were soft, hesitant, almost shy, as if she was testing the waters. Yet there was a certain warmth in the sound, a gentle clarity that immediately drew attention. The pianist stepped back, watching intently, curiosity shining in his eyes. As she continued, the music slowly began to flow from her fingers. What started as simple, careful notes began to transform into something more expressive. Her fingers moved with surprising ease, producing melodies that were both delicate and full of emotion. The room, which had been filled with quiet chatter and laughter, gradually fell silent. Every guest had stopped talking, mesmerized by the unexpected beauty of the music. The pianist leaned closer, his eyes widening slightly. He had expected a playful, perhaps even clumsy attempt, but what he heard was something entirely different. It was clear that this woman, whom no one had expected anything from, possessed an extraordinary understanding of the piano. Her music wasn't just notes on a scale. It was a story, a conversation, a feeling that reached into the hearts of everyone listening. The woman's confidence grew with every measure. She closed her eyes for a moment, letting herself be carried by the music. Her hands moved fluidly, almost as if they had a mind of their own. The melody she played had a gentle strength, a balance of technical skill and heartfelt emotion that was rare even among seasoned performers. Guests whispered to each other in astonishment, unable to believe what they were hearing. Some had seen famous musicians perform countless times, yet they had never experienced anything like this from someone so humble and quiet. As the piece continued, the atmosphere in the room shifted. The elegance and sophistication of the gathering became secondary to the pure human connection that the music created. Eyes glistened with emotion. Some guests subtly wiped tears from the corners of their eyes. The pianist's hands were no longer playful or expectant. They were clasped together in admiration, watching as this simple woman transformed the space with her talent. She played with a mix of precision and freedom, allowing the melody to breathe and rise naturally. Each note seemed intentional yet effortless, a reflection of her deep understanding and love for music. Her nervousness had faded entirely, replaced by a quiet joy that radiated from her as she played. The audience could feel it, as if every chord spoke directly to them. creating a shared experience that transcended the formal setting. The pianist finally stepped forward after a particularly beautiful passage, placing his hands lightly on the piano beside hers for a moment. There was no instruction, no guidance, only acknowledgement. The woman glanced at him briefly, offering a small, humble smile, and then returned to her music, inspired by the unspoken respect and recognition. Time seemed to stretch and bend as she continued, the music becoming a gentle wave that washed over the room. Guests were caught in the moment, forgetting the hall, the drinks, the clothes, and the social expectations. All that mattered was the melody, the emotion, and the unexpected brilliance that had emerged from someone who had been overlooked in the crowd. When she finally finished, the room was silent for a heartbeat longer than anyone expected. Then, a slow, growing applause erupted, starting with a few guests and quickly spreading to the entire hall. The pianist clapped enthusiastically, smiling broadly, clearly thrilled and astonished. The audience stood, giving her a standing ovation, many still trying to process what they had just witnessed. She sat there, breathless and smiling, realizing that she had just shared something deeply personal and beautiful with the world, and it had been received with admiration and wonder. The woman's cheeks were flushed, a mix of pride, relief, and excitement filling her heart. She hadn't set out to impress anyone or seek recognition. She had simply played because music was a part of her life, something that brought her joy and comfort. Yet in this single unplanned moment, her life had shifted in ways she could not have imagined. The famous pianist approached her, his expression a mix of amazement and respect. "That was incredible," he said sincerely. "You have a gift that must be shared. I never expected anything like that." The guests continued to buzz with excitement, talking among themselves about the unexpected talent they had just witnessed. Cameras discreetly captured the moment, and whispers of astonishment filled the room. The woman, still seated at the piano, felt a warm sense of connection to everyone around her. She realized that her quiet love for music had created a moment of beauty that touched hearts in a way words never could. She thanked the pianist and the guests softly, her voice calm but full of emotion. The pianist smiled, nodding in acknowledgement, and returned to his own place near the piano, clearly inspired and intrigued. The woman felt a mix of humility and pride, understanding that this moment was not about fame or recognition, but about the simple power of sharing something meaningful. The room had been transformed, if only for a few minutes, by the purity of music and the courage of someone willing to play from the heart. As the evening continued, people approached her to express their admiration and surprise. Some asked how long she had been playing. Others commented on the emotional depth of her performance. She answered modestly, explaining that she had always loved playing for herself and her family, never imagining that she would perform in front of anyone like this. Yet every compliment and every look of awe from the audience reinforced a quiet truth she had always known. Music was her gift, and it had a way of connecting people in ways nothing else could. The pianist, now chatting with other guests, occasionally glanced back at her, clearly impressed and perhaps a little inspired. He had come into the evening expecting a playful, light-hearted moment, and instead he had witnessed a remarkable display of talent and emotion. It was a reminder that brilliance can be found in the most unexpected places, and that sometimes the simplest people hold the most extraordinary gifts. The woman sat quietly, savoring the moment, knowing that she had just experienced something unforgettable, both for herself and for everyone around her. The next morning, the woman woke up feeling a strange mix of excitement and nervousness. She could not stop thinking about the previous evening, the way the music had flowed from her fingers and how the room had reacted. Even though she had always loved music, she had never experienced anything like this before. Her performance had been spontaneous, a moment of pure emotion, yet it had created ripples far beyond what she could have imagined. Word of her performance had spread quickly. Friends and colleagues who had not attended the gathering had already started asking questions, curious about the quiet woman who had captivated a room full of experienced musicians and wealthy guests. Even the pianist had posted a short video on social media, highlighting her talent with a few kind words about her unexpected skill. The video went viral within hours. Messages of praise and invitations to play at various events began arriving almost immediately, filling her inbox faster than she could manage. The sudden attention was overwhelming, but it also made her realize how much potential her music had when shared with the world. Despite the excitement, she remained grounded, She spent the morning reflecting on what had happened, replaying the evening in her mind. She remembered the gentle encouragement from the pianist, the way his eyes had lit up when he heard her play, and the soft gasp of the audience when the music became more expressive. She understood that this was more than just a moment of luck. It was a reminder of something she had always known deep inside. Music was not just a hobby. It was a part of her soul. As the day progressed, she received a call from the pianist himself. He spoke with warmth and excitement, inviting her to join him for a private rehearsal session. His tone was sincere, emphasizing that he had never encountered someone with such a natural understanding of music, someone who could combine technical skill with emotion so effortlessly. The woman hesitated at first, unsure if she could keep up with a professional of his caliber. But the thought of playing beside him, of learning from someone she had admired from afar, ignited a spark of courage she hadn't realized she possessed. By the afternoon, she found herself in a quiet studio filled with instruments, sheet music, and the gentle scent of polished wood. The pianist greeted her with a warm smile and offered her a seat at the grand piano. He explained that he wanted to try something different, a collaboration that was not planned for any public performance, but purely for exploration and joy. The idea made her heart race with excitement. She had never imagined that such an opportunity could come from a simple invitation at a social gathering. They began slowly, the pianist playing a soft melody while she added subtle harmonies. At first she struggled to match his pace and fluidity, but he encouraged her gently, reminding her that music was not just about perfection but about expression. The more she played, the more relaxed she became. She began to experiment with the dynamics, the flow of the notes, and the way the melody could tell a story. Every time she made a choice, the pianist would nod with appreciation, offering tips without judgment and creating an atmosphere where creativity could flourish. Hours passed as they explored different pieces and improvisations. She discovered new aspects of her abilities, noticing how her fingers could move faster, how her mind could anticipate harmonies she had never consciously studied. It was both thrilling and humbling. The pianist shared stories of his own early struggles and how he had learned to let the music guide him, rather than trying to control every note. These conversations helped her understand that her talent was real, and that with practice and guidance it could grow even further. As the session continued, she realized something remarkable. It wasn't just her skill that was developing. It was her confidence. She had always played privately, unsure of how others would perceive her music. Now, in this small, intimate setting, she felt validated. Her music had a place in the world, and her unique style, born from years of quiet practice and personal expression, was something that could inspire others. She felt a deep sense of purpose, a recognition that her gift was meant to be shared. The pianist suggested trying a duet that would challenge both of them, a piece that required careful listening and precise timing. At first, she felt a wave of nervousness. Could she keep up with someone so skilled? But as they started, she found herself in a state of flow, her fingers moving naturally, her mind anticipating the shifts and changes in the music. They created a harmony that was more than just notes. It was a conversation, a dialogue between two musicians from different worlds, connected by their shared love for the piano. The experience was exhilarating. The woman laughed quietly to herself, amazed at how far she had come in such a short time. Every chord and every passage was a discovery, a chance to push the boundaries of her own abilities. She felt free, unburdened by expectation, able to explore the full range of her emotions through the keys. The pianist, watching her closely, nodded in approval, clearly impressed by how quickly she adapted and how naturally she could express herself. By the time the session ended, both of them were exhausted, but joyful. They shared a moment of quiet reflection, sitting side by side at the piano, letting the last notes linger in the air. The woman realized that this was more than just a practice session. It was a turning point. Her life, once ordinary and predictable, had opened up to possibilities she had never imagined. Music was no longer a private solace. It was a bridge to a larger world, one that welcomed her talent and celebrated her courage. After leaving the studio, she walked through the quiet streets, the city alive with soft evening light. She felt a sense of wonder at how a single moment, being invited to play for fun, had transformed her path. She thought about the people she had touched with her music, the unexpected admiration and the joy she had felt sharing something deeply personal. The experience had shown her that talent is not measured by fame or recognition, but by the impact it can have on others and the fulfillment it brings to the one who creates it. In the following days, the invitations and messages continued to pour in, each one a reminder of the new possibilities now open to her. She received offers to play at local events, small concerts, and private gatherings. Some suggested recording sessions, while others simply wanted to hear her play live. She felt grateful for the attention, but also cautious, knowing that she needed to stay true to herself and her love for music. This sudden spotlight was exciting, but it was not the reason she played. It was a natural result of doing what she loved with authenticity and courage. She began to plan a routine for herself, balancing her regular life with her growing musical engagements. She set aside time each day to practice, not for anyone else, but to nurture her skill and creativity. She experimented with different styles, explored new compositions, and even tried improvisation, discovering new ways to express her emotions through the piano. The joy she felt was profound, a mix of freedom, excitement, and deep satisfaction. Music had become a more vital part of her existence, connecting her to the world in ways she had never anticipated. The pianist checked in frequently, offering encouragement and occasional guidance. Their collaboration had become a quiet partnership, built on mutual respect and a shared passion for the instrument. He often reminded her that the true beauty of music is in its honesty and emotional truth, not in complexity or fame. These conversations reinforced her belief that her path was unique and that she could make a difference simply by being herself and playing from the heart. Through it all, she remained humble, aware that her journey was just beginning. The recognition she had received was exciting, but she knew that the true reward lay in the act of creation itself. Each note she played was a reflection of her life, her experiences, and her emotions. The music had become a bridge between her inner world and the outer one, a way to connect with others without words, and to share something profoundly human. As she looked back on the events that had brought her to this point, she realized that her courage, her willingness to accept a playful invitation, had set everything into motion. A single choice, a moment of vulnerability, had opened doors she had never imagined. It was a reminder that sometimes the simplest actions can lead to the most extraordinary outcomes, and that hidden talent can emerge when given the chance to shine. Her journey was just beginning, and the world was waiting to hear her story through the music she created. Weeks had passed since the woman had first played in front of the crowd and met the famous pianist. Each day had brought new experiences, invitations, and small adventures into a life that had once been simple and quiet. She had begun to travel to various small events and gatherings, always careful to balance her normal routines with her emerging musical life. Each time she sat at the piano, whether in a cozy living room or a small stage, the joy she felt was the same, pure, effortless, and deeply satisfying. One afternoon, she received an invitation to play at a local charity concert. The hall was much larger than any she had encountered before, with rows of seats stretching back and a stage that seemed to glow under the bright lights. Nervousness crept in, but she reminded herself that this was just another opportunity to share her love of music. She thought about the first time she had played in front of people and how it had opened doors she never expected. That memory gave her courage, and she took a deep breath before stepping onto the stage. The audience was a mix of people from different walks of life. Some were regular attendees of charity events, while others had come specifically to see the mysterious young woman whose talent had recently made headlines. She noticed the mix of curiosity and anticipation in their faces, but instead of letting it intimidate her, she used it as fuel to connect through the music. Sitting at the grand piano, she placed her hands on the keys and allowed herself to become fully absorbed in the melody. Her first notes were calm and steady, filling the large hall with a warmth that made the audience lean forward, attentive. The music flowed naturally, a combination of pieces she had practiced and new improvisations inspired by the moment. She had learned over the past weeks that the piano was more than an instrument. It was a channel for expression, a way to communicate feelings that words could not convey. Every chord carried emotion and every passage told a story. As she played, she noticed the subtle reactions of the audience. Some closed their eyes, letting the music wash over them. Others smiled, their attention captured completely by the delicate yet powerful notes. A few were visibly moved, swaying slightly or wiping tears from their eyes. It was a humbling experience, a reminder that music could touch lives in ways that nothing else could. She realized that she was not only sharing her talent, but also creating a space where people could feel, reflect, and connect with themselves. Midway through her performance, she took a slight pause, letting a single note linger in the air. The pianist had taught her that silence could be as powerful as sound, that giving the music room to breathe made every note more meaningful. She continued, weaving her emotions into the melody, exploring the full range of dynamics, tempo, and expression. The music became a living thing, moving organically as if it had a mind of its own. Her fingers danced over the keys with confidence, and the room seemed to hold its collective breath in admiration. Behind her, a few event organizers and musicians exchanged astonished glances. They had known she was talented, but seeing her perform on a stage of this scale revealed a depth they had not anticipated. The woman herself was surprised by the ease with which she could convey feeling, by the way her music could touch hearts without any words. Each performance had become a lesson, teaching her more about herself and the way she could reach others. By the end of the piece, the audience was silent for a moment, as if they could not fully comprehend what they had just experienced. Then applause erupted, loud and genuine, filling the hall with appreciation and admiration. Some people were on their feet immediately, and soon the entire audience was giving her a standing ovation. She felt a wave of gratitude and humility, understanding that this recognition was not about fame, but about the impact her music had on others. Every smile, every tear, and every nod of acknowledgement reminded her why she had chosen to continue playing, even when it had once been a private passion. After the concert, she was approached by several organizers, musicians, and audience members. They spoke about the depth of her performance, her expressive style, and the emotional resonance of her music. Each comment made her realize that her journey had moved beyond personal joy. Her music was touching the lives of others in profound ways. One person asked how long she had studied piano professionally, and she smiled, gently explaining that she had learned mostly in private, guided by love and intuition rather than formal training. The honesty in her story added another layer to the admiration people felt for her. Later that evening, she met with the famous pianist once again. He had attended the concert, watching from the side, and his face lit up with pride and astonishment. He spoke about the way she had grown since their first encounter, emphasizing not only her skill but the emotional intelligence she brought to each note. "You've discovered something rare," he said, "the ability to make people feel deeply through your music. That is the true gift of an artist." The woman listened quietly, feeling a mix of pride and humility. She had never set out to become famous or to impress anyone. She had simply played because it brought her joy. Now she realized that her personal passion had become a bridge to others' hearts, a way to create shared experiences that left lasting impressions. It was a lesson she would carry with her for the rest of her life. In the following days, invitations to perform at other events began to arrive, ranging from small community gatherings to more prominent venues. She accepted them carefully, choosing opportunities that aligned with her values and allowed her to remain grounded. She also continued to practice daily, exploring new techniques and experimenting with compositions. Her music became richer and more expressive, reflecting not just her growing technical skill but also her deepening understanding of human emotion and connection. One afternoon, while practicing a new piece, she received a phone call from a music producer. He had seen the video from her first performance and was amazed at her natural talent. He offered to record a small collection of her pieces, emphasizing that he wanted to preserve the authenticity and simplicity of her style. The idea was both exciting and intimidating. She had never considered recording professionally, but the thought of sharing her music with a wider audience without compromising its soul-filled quality sparked a sense of adventure. She discussed the opportunity with the pianist, who encouraged her gently. "This is a chance to touch even more lives," he said. "Just remember to stay true to yourself. The beauty of your music is in its honesty, not in how much it can impress." His words resonated deeply. She knew that no matter how far her journey went, her focus needed to remain on creating music that was genuine, heartfelt, and meaningful. As she prepared for the recording, she reflected on the incredible journey that had brought her here. From a quiet, simple woman who loved to play in her living room, she had grown into someone whose music could inspire and move others. Each step had been a lesson in courage, humility, and authenticity. She realized that talent alone was not enough. It was the willingness to embrace opportunity, to step into the unknown, and to share her gift openly that had made all the difference. The woman's story had begun as an unexpected moment at a social gathering, but it had evolved into a journey of self-discovery, connection, and growth. Every note she played was a reflection of her journey, a testament to the power of courage and the beauty of sharing one's passion. She understood now that music was more than sound. It was a language of the heart, capable of touching lives, bridging gaps, and creating moments that could never be forgotten. With each performance, she continued to surprise herself and everyone around her. She was no longer just a quiet observer of life. She had become a voice, a presence, and a reminder that sometimes the most extraordinary talent can come from the most ordinary places. And as she played, she knew that this was only the beginning of a story that would continue to unfold in ways she could not yet imagine. Months had passed since the woman had first performed in front of the crowd, and her life had been transformed in ways she had never imagined. Invitations and opportunities continued to arrive, and each experience was teaching her something new. She had become more confident, more expressive, and more aware of the effect her music could have on others. Yet, despite all the attention, she remained humble, always remembering the joy that first spontaneous moment at the gathering had given her. One evening, she was invited to a prestigious music event in a grand concert hall. The event was filled with professional musicians, critics, and music enthusiasts from around the world. It was the kind of audience that could be intimidating, even for seasoned performers. The woman felt a flutter of nerves as she entered the hall, her fingers brushing lightly against the keys of the grand piano on stage. She reminded herself to focus on the music, to let it speak for her, and to trust in the years of practice she had poured into her craft. As she began to play, the hall fell silent. The audience, many of whom had never seen her perform, listened intently as the first notes echoed through the space. Her fingers moved with grace and precision, creating melodies that were both delicate and powerful. Each note seemed to carry emotion directly into the hearts of those listening. She played not for recognition, but for the joy of sharing something deeply personal. The music was alive, resonating with every person in the room, creating an invisible connection between her and the audience. As she continued, she noticed subtle reactions in the crowd. Some closed their eyes, letting the music wash over them. Others leaned forward, captivated by the nuances of her performance. Even the critics, often stern and critical, were silent, clearly impressed by the depth and authenticity of her expression. Her music had a way of drawing people in, of making them feel, and tonight it was working more powerfully than ever. Midway through her performance, she transitioned into a piece that she had recently composed. It was an improvisation inspired by the events of the past months, her journey from quiet obscurity to the recognition she now enjoyed. The notes flowed effortlessly, capturing both her technical skill and her emotional depth. The audience was mesmerized. The music told a story without words, conveying her experiences, her growth, and her humble beginnings. It was a moment of pure honesty, and everyone present could feel it. The famous pianist who had first encouraged her watched from the side of the stage. His eyes were wide with admiration, and a small smile of pride played on his lips. He had seen many talented musicians in his lifetime, but there was something extraordinary about her. She combined natural skill, emotional depth, and authenticity in a way that was rare, even among professionals. He knew that she was not just talented, she had the power to inspire and move people through her music. When she finished the piece, the hall was silent for a heartbeat longer than expected. Then the applause began, growing steadily until the entire audience was on their feet. The clapping was enthusiastic, genuine, and unrestrained. Tears glistened in some eyes while others smiled in awe. The recognition was overwhelming, yet she remained composed, offering a humble nod and a gentle smile. She had never sought fame, but this response made her realize that her music had the power to touch people in ways that words could never achieve. After the performance, the woman was approached by organizers, musicians, and attendees alike. They spoke with excitement and admiration, eager to learn more about her journey, her training, and her approach to music. She explained softly that most of her practice had been private, guided by love and intuition rather than formal instruction. The honesty in her explanation only added to the audience's appreciation. People were inspired not just by her talent but by her authenticity and humility. The pianist came forward, joining her as the crowd continued to express their admiration. He spoke warmly, praising her growth and the emotional depth she had displayed in her performance. "You have a gift that goes beyond technique," he said sincerely. "You connect with people in a way that few can. Your music tells a story, and tonight everyone here felt it." The woman listened, feeling a mix of pride and humility. She understood that this recognition was not the goal, but a natural consequence of sharing something meaningful from the heart. In the following days, news of her performance spread rapidly. Articles and social media posts highlighted the extraordinary story of a simple woman whose talent had surprised and inspired a professional audience. Invitations to perform at concerts, events, and even educational programs began to pour in from across the country. She carefully considered each opportunity, choosing those that allowed her to remain true to herself and her passion for music. Despite the growing attention, she continued to focus on the music itself, rather than the accolades it brought. The recognition also brought new challenges. She was asked to give interviews, participate in discussions, and even teach master classes. Each request required careful thought and preparation. She wanted to share her knowledge and experiences without losing the authenticity that made her music so special. She approached each situation with honesty, explaining that her journey had been guided by love for the instrument and the courage to embrace unexpected opportunities. People admired not only her skill but her grounded perspective, which made her story even more inspiring. One afternoon, she received an invitation to collaborate with a group of professional musicians on a special performance for a charitable cause. The event would be broadcast, reaching audiences far beyond the hall. The woman felt a mix of excitement and nervousness. She had performed in front of audiences before, but this was different. There would be millions watching, and the stakes felt higher. Yet she remembered the lessons she had learned: focus on the music, trust in her ability, and play from the heart. These thoughts gave her courage. During rehearsals, she worked closely with the other musicians, learning to blend her style with theirs while maintaining the authenticity of her own expression. She discovered new ways to communicate through music, finding harmony and balance in collaboration. The experience was both challenging and rewarding. She realized that growth came not only from solo performance but also from working with others, adapting, and finding new ways to express her emotions collectively. It was a reminder that music was a living, evolving art form, capable of connecting people in ways that transcended individual talent. The day of the performance arrived, and the woman felt a calm determination. She knew that this was an opportunity to share her music with a wider audience, to inspire and to touch hearts. As she sat at the piano, she allowed herself to focus entirely on the music. Her fingers moved confidently, producing melodies that were rich, expressive, and deeply emotional. The musicians around her responded intuitively, creating a synergy that made the performance feel effortless and natural. When the final notes resonated through the hall, the audience erupted in applause both in person and through the broadcast. Messages of admiration and gratitude flooded social media, praising her talent, authenticity, and emotional impact. The recognition was overwhelming, yet she remained composed, grateful for the opportunity to share her gift and for the connections her music had created. She realized that her journey had grown far beyond her expectations, transforming not only her life, but also the lives of those who experienced her music. The woman understood that this was a pivotal moment. Her talent had been recognized, her music had been celebrated, and she had inspired countless people. Yet she remained grounded, knowing that the true reward was not in applause or accolades, but in the joy and connection her music created. She continued to play, to explore, and to share, understanding that every note she played was a chance to touch someone's heart, to bring comfort, inspiration, or simply a moment of beauty into their lives. In the quiet moments after the performance, she reflected on her journey. From a simple, private life to recognition by professionals and audiences alike, her path had been shaped by courage, passion, and authenticity. She realized that the most extraordinary moments often come from the simplest choices: saying yes to an invitation, sharing a gift without expectation, and trusting in one's own abilities. Her story was a testament to the power of music, humility, and the human spirit, and she knew that the journey was far from over. There were still countless notes to play, stories to tell through music, and hearts to touch with her gift. The woman's life had changed in ways she could have never imagined. The quiet, ordinary life she had once led now coexisted with an extraordinary musical journey. Every day brought new opportunities, new experiences, and a growing understanding of the impact her music had on people. Yet she remained humble, grateful for the moments that had led her here and for the chance to continue sharing her gift. After the broadcasted performance with professional musicians, her story spread even further. Messages of admiration came from people of all ages and backgrounds. Some shared how her music had inspired them to pursue their own passions. Others simply thanked her for the comfort and joy her melodies had brought into their lives. Each message was a reminder that music could transcend barriers, creating connections and emotional resonance that words alone could not achieve. She read each one carefully, touched by the genuine gratitude and warmth from strangers she had never met. With her growing recognition, she began receiving invitations to perform at larger venues and events. Some were local, while others required traveling to different cities. At first, she felt nervous about the scale and exposure, but she reminded herself that her journey had always been about sharing her music with honesty and emotion. The more she focused on the music itself rather than the audience or the fame, the more natural her performances became. Her nervousness gradually transformed into anticipation, and she discovered a sense of joy in connecting with people through sound. One of the most impactful experiences came when she was asked to perform at a children's hospital. Walking through the halls, she saw patients, some playing quietly, others resting with their families. As she sat at a small piano in the common room, she began to play gently, letting the music float through the space. The children paused, captivated by the soft, soothing notes. Some smiled, others listened intently, eyes wide with curiosity and wonder. She realized that her music had a healing power, even in such small ways, bringing comfort and a sense of normalcy to those facing challenges far greater than she could imagine. The experience at the hospital became a turning point. She understood that her talent was not just for admiration or recognition, but also for creating moments of connection, hope, and joy. She felt a renewed sense of purpose, wanting to use her abilities to make a positive difference in the lives of others. This realization shaped her choices moving forward, guiding her to accept opportunities that aligned with her values and her desire to touch hearts. As her musical journey continued, she also explored recording her compositions. Working in a small studio, she focused on capturing the authenticity of her sound, ensuring that each recording reflected the emotion and honesty she poured into every performance. The process was challenging, requiring patience and attention to detail, but it also brought immense satisfaction. Hearing her music preserved in this way felt like leaving a legacy, a way for her gift to reach people far beyond the immediate audience. Collaboration became another exciting aspect of her life. She met other musicians, composers, and performers, discovering new ways to express herself and expand her understanding of music. Each collaboration was a learning experience, teaching her to adapt, listen, and harmonize with others while staying true to her own style. She found joy not only in performing solo but also in creating collective experiences where different voices and instruments blended into something richer and more dynamic. Despite her busy schedule and the growing attention, she remained grounded. She continued to practice daily, not for fame but to explore the depths of her talent and express herself more fully. Each note she played was a reflection of her journey, a way to share her experiences, emotions, and thoughts with the world. She found balance between her ordinary routines and extraordinary opportunities, ensuring that her music remained a source of joy rather than pressure. Over time, she noticed a profound change in herself. The shy, quiet woman who had once hesitated to play in front of anyone had grown into a confident, expressive artist. She had learned to trust her instincts, embrace opportunities, and share her gift openly. Yet she had not lost her humility or her love for simplicity. Her joy came from the music itself, from the moments of connection it created, and from the realization that her talent could inspire, comfort, and uplift others. One day, she received an invitation to perform at a charity gala, attended by influential figures in the music world. The event was high profile, but she approached it with the same mindset she had always held: to play with authenticity, emotion, and heart. As she sat at the piano, She let her feelings guide her fingers, allowing the music to flow naturally. The audience was captivated, once again experiencing the quiet power of her talent. It was a reminder that the impact of music is measured not by the size of the venue or the fame of the performer, but by the emotional connection it creates. After the performance, she was approached by young musicians who admired her story. They asked for advice, tips, and encouragement. She spoke to them honestly, sharing her experiences, the importance of practice, and the value of playing from the heart. She encouraged them to pursue their passions with courage and authenticity, emphasizing that talent is nurtured not just through skill, but through dedication, love, and the willingness to take risks. The conversation left her with a sense of fulfillment, realizing that her journey could inspire others to follow their own dreams. As time passed, her influence continued to grow. She performed in various settings, from intimate gatherings to larger stages, always maintaining the authenticity that defined her music. She learned to balance recognition with humility, understanding that the true reward was not applause or fame, but the joy and connection that her music could bring to others. Each performance reinforced her purpose and reminded her why she had chosen to embrace the opportunity when the famous pianist had first asked her to play for fun. Through it all, she never lost sight of the simple joy that had inspired her love for music in the first place. She continued to play in quiet moments in her living room or for friends and family, savoring the personal connection that music brought. These private moments were a source of comfort and reflection, grounding her in the knowledge that her talent was not just for public admiration, but also for personal fulfillment and emotional expression. Looking back, she realized how a single playful invitation had transformed her life. From a quiet woman with a private love for music, she had become a performer whose talent inspired, comforted, and moved countless people. The journey had been filled with surprises, challenges, and moments of profound joy. She understood that her courage to embrace that first opportunity had set everything into motion, and that every choice she made afterward had shaped the life she now led. Her story became a reminder to everyone who heard it, that talent often resides in unexpected places, and that sometimes the simplest acts of courage can lead to extraordinary outcomes. She had discovered that music was not just an art form, but a language of connection, capable of touching hearts, bridging gaps, and creating lasting memories. Her life had changed in ways she could not have predicted, and yet at its core, it remained rooted in the love and passion that had always driven her. The woman continued to play, explore, and share her gift, knowing that the journey was ongoing. She embraced each new opportunity with humility, courage, and joy, understanding that every performance was not just a display of skill, but a chance to touch lives and create moments of beauty. Her life had been transformed by music, but she had also transformed the world around her, leaving an enduring legacy of inspiration, authenticity, and human connection.